Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz game number 214. I was black here. My opponent played e4, and I chose a Sicilian defense, and my opponent came up with d4, the leading into the Smith-Morra gambit. I guess there's other ways to play after I take. He could play knight f3 or queen takes d4, but his idea here is to play c3, sacrificing a pawn and playing a gambit. Now, in over-the-board games, I normally play the move knight f6. So I'll just say a little bit about this. It's an interesting way to play. It gives you a decent position, and you can play it against the c3 Sicilian as well as against the Smith-Morra gambit. So just learning this one opening is good for one way of playing is good for handling two different openings, the Smith-Morra and also the Alpine Sicilian. So normally it proceeds like this. He kicks the knight and then develops his own pieces. Knight f3, knight c6, cd here, d6, bishop c4, and knight b6. This is the way it typically goes. There are other ways to play along here, and the bishop can go to b5 or back to b3. Looks like bishop b5 is a little more active, so probably the best way to play. So this is playable against two different lines, against the c3 Sicilian and also against the Smith-Morra gambit. But let's go back to the game. I played into the gambit. It's just sometimes you don't feel like sometimes you don't feel like playing a gambit. You know, white gets a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of stuff to deal with, and a lot of different lines and different ways for white to attack in this opening. So anyway, but I took the pawn for the sake of the video here, and he takes back. And then I play the normal moves here. Knight c6, he develops his knight, and d6. Just trying to develop some pieces and also slow down the advance of white's e-pawn. So he goes bishop c4, and it's important to play this move e6. You want to blunt the bishop and stop any potential attacks on f7. So my opponent castled here. I go bishop e7, preparing to castle as well. And now the main line here is queen e2. And I could play, say, knight f6 here and rook d1. So putting pressure on this pawn and threatening the move e5. So the normal response here is for black to play e5 first before white gets a chance to play that. But it can be very dangerous if white gets in this move e5, kicking the knight, and this pawn is pinned, so you can't take. So the knight's got to move again. And so that's something you got to watch out for, and keep in mind this e5 idea. So my opponent didn't play this way. What he did, which is kind of interesting, he developed the bishop first, and I went knight f6. Here, I guess we're out of the opening book, so we can just look at the notation tab. And then he played queen e2. And his idea here, after I castle, is to bring his other rook to the d file. So instead of the f rook to d1, he gets to bring the a rook to d1 because he got the bishop out of the way. So this is interesting. The move here, it looks like bishop d7 was playable, but also I think the best move here would have been queen a5, just getting out of that pin. And in this situation, white has given black an extra move, basically, by doing this bishop e3, and I can use it to good advantage by developing a piece and unpinning this pawn and not have to play the move e5. But I didn't think of that at the time, so I just played the move e5 here with the same idea of stopping white from playing e5, and he continued with bishop b5. And now I guess I should play bishop d7 here. I didn't really like queen c7 so much, although that would have been possible too, it says. Okay, so either of those moves. Okay, so I played a6 instead, and he takes my knight, and then he can grab this pawn. And I can't take back because of the pin. So he's gotten his pawn back, and you know, often black will give the pawn back on purpose. That was a bit of an accident, but so I played queen c7. You'll see the game is still about even. It's not like the attack is overwhelming or anything at this point, and he needs to retreat his knight. But he's gotten his pawn back. He's got easy development, and he's slightly better at this point. So good opening work by white. and I just needed to play that move queen a5, I think, at the right time. But I played the move a5, threatening bishop a6, and my opponent didn't really notice that threat, I don't think. He plays bishop f4 and to prepare the move e5. So I go ahead and play my threat, the skewer. He moves the queen out of the way, and I take the exchange. So at this point, oh, he took back with the king. At this point, I was feeling pretty good. But you'll notice the engine does not give a great advantage to black. I mean, this is probably a significant advantage. But the exchange is usually worth 2 points, so this means that white also has a lot of compensation. He's still got a lot of activity with his pieces, and I really need to be a little more careful about that. Okay, I played rook a d8, and now he went e5, so maybe not the best move. He gets into a little bit of trouble here. But the engine suggestions were knight d4 or king back to g1. Moving your king to safety is always interesting. An interesting thing to do before launching an attack. And then knight d4. So maybe the knight is going to come from d4 to f5 and get active that way. Okay, but my opponent played e5. I took it. And then he took back with the knight, which is a clear mistake because this knight can be pinned. And I can take advantage of it by exchanging rooks here. I didn't play this in the game. And he takes back. And then bishop d6, increasing pressure on the knight. And then, well, the line goes on. The engine gives a strong evaluation in favor of black here, although if you notice the material is still even, and if you follow the line out, it goes on for a long time before black actually wins any material. So the advantage really is all in, well, this pin is a bit annoying, I guess, so you just keep piling up the pressure on the knight here, and eventually white will crack. Or that's the theory. So I didn't play that. I played knight h5, which is not a bad move. You see, this still keeps the advantage for me. My opponent takes the rook, and now I took back with the rook. Apparently, taking back with the bishop is stronger. I guess because it opens up the e file for my rook, and now he needs to do something about the bishop. I'm threatening just to take the bishop and then the knight. He could play knight to g6, just giving up the bishop. Why can't he defend his knight? g3, queen d2, queen f5. Queen f5 is similar to what was played in the game, but now I take on f4. Ah, yeah, there's a big difference. So let's play what happened in the game. I took with the rook, and we'll see. The difference here is that now queen f5 is a much stronger move, so that's the difference between these two lines, and why taking with the rook is a bit of a mistake, because now queen f5 comes with the threat on f7 there, and so I really missed this move when I was back here trying to decide what to play, and I played knight h5. I really missed this idea of queen f5. I thought I was just winning a piece here, and so let's go forward again. So he plays queen f5, and now I take the bishop, which is one of the moves here, but I should have thought a little bit. I always criticize my opponents for not taking enough time, and this time I need to criticize myself to be fair. So I spent 8 seconds on this move. Knight takes f4, and I didn't even notice that he had queen takes f7 until after I'd played my move. And so I was just lucky that I had escaped. And then immediately after this, I make another mistake right here. I play the move bishop f6, and I played this in about 5 seconds. And he just has this killer move, knight g6 check, which wins my queen. And so I totally overlooked that threat. So that pretty much ended the game. But the other interesting thing about this position, so the first point I wanted to make is that sometimes when you're not playing well and you're starting to miss things, there's a small slip that is not fatal. So after queen takes f7, king h8, you see I still have an edge here, and I should still be playing for a win. But that should have been a warning sign to me that I'm not at my sharpest, and I need to move a little more carefully, make sure I'm checking all the possibilities. And so if you can notice things like that and just slow down your play and start playing more carefully when that happens, That's a good strategy if you can manage it. Somehow I don't ever see, I don't notice these red flags until after after the game. But that was definitely a red flag. Okay, and now the move bishop to f6 is sort of explainable here. So knight, there's a threat of knight to f7, and the move bishop f6, which I played. What it does is it blocks the queen from defending f7, and it allows my queen to defend f7. So after that, knight f7 check, and I can just take it. So it's not a bad move, but I completely missed the idea in the game that he has knight g6 with check, and my queen is under attack. So there was just a couple different threats, and I really needed to notice both of them. So I noticed one threat, I defended against it, but I didn't defend against the other threat. And so that's the way you lose these games. And there was a defense here. The defense, the best defense is just bishop d6. So now knight here check is playable. King g8. Knight takes d6, and I take back with the queen. So I don't get to win the queen or anything, but I have a queen and a rook against a queen and a knight, and he's got a pawn for the exchange. So it's a game where black has a slight edge, and the game would continue. So that's the way I should have played it, that bishop d6 move. Instead, yeah, I played bishop f6. He played the very logical knight g6 check, and I resigned here because there's no way to save the queen. I can take the knight, but I'm still going to lose the queen. So a pretty instructive game, I thought. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you again soon. Leave any comments you have in the section below. Bye.